Hello again, and welcome to the InScope podcast. My name is John Scott from ScopeStack, CEO and co-founder over here. Have Kyle Spooner, Director of Operations over at IntelliComp, plus some MSPGeek stuff, doing a lot of things, representing South Carolina. Welcome, Kyle.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here. Super excited.
Appreciate it. I think we originally sort of met because you're here in South Carolina,
Yep.
where we're filming, and it's just kind of like this weird, hey, connected with you and saw you were in, a city close to mine, and like, hey, we're like MSP centric. Let's talk. I think that's one of the first when we first engaged a couple years ago. Yeah.
Me realizing there's other people in South Carolina. Besides me.
I know, it's kind of crazy, and like that's what I want to pick your brain on today, because again, I know you're extremely involved with MSPGeek, not to mention just working day job right at IntelliComp, and like you're in the MSP space. So I want to pick your brain on just why is it important to be involved in community as an MSP. And also, we're very interested at ScopeStack and some other folks that we'll talk about, here, local, building a community around, the MSP space locally, right? And so I just want to pick your brain on a bunch of that stuff. So
communities, humans by nature are social creatures, right? We like to gather in groups. Even engineers. We like to gather in groups and have conversations, nerd out about Dungeons and Dragons or the latest Lord of the Rings film or Star Wars or what have you.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, they do it around their jobs as well. So that's kind of how MSPGeek formed.
Yeah.
And it's super easy to talk about how to build something where people can gather together,
right,
and go over things that they're interested in. That's one of the key features that we try to push when we have people come to our community, including vendors, because you guys are a part of the MSP community.
Right.
You were just a part as MSP is. And we try to push for training, technology training, engineering training, business operations training, all kinds of stuff.
Well, and I think we all have similar problems, right? It's not all the exact same. It doesn't look and feel exactly the same, but we're all working through something.
Yep.
One way or the other, whether we're trying to grow the business, handle something from the technical side, or, honestly, it could be personal stuff too, right?
Yep.
The personal side of our business affects our business sometime. And so, all right. So, as an MSP, right, just quick blurb on why is it important to join that community?
It goes back to what you were saying. People have done this before.
Yeah.
And solving a problem that's already been solved is very inefficient as someone from the operations side.
Right.
So if someone else has solved it and is willing to help you get to where you need to be, that's, I should encourage you to do that as much as possible. And that's kind of what our community does. It's users helping users.
Yeah.
It's relationship building. And it's, hey, I have this problem. Has anyone solved this before?
Right.
And it generally is responded with we've solved that. Here's how we did it.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly here's the script or function to be able to do it for you.
Did you, when y'all started MSPGeek and started building that out, was there a lack of community? Was there just a hole in the world? Was there a better way to do it that y'all thought?
So we built around our founder, Martin Keir, built around an application called LabTech at the time, which is now ConnectWise Automate.
Got it.
And I don't know if anyone has used that software suite, but Automate itself is very, very
nuanced.
I wouldn't say difficult to use, but it requires a dedicated source to manage and run it because it's so powerful and very cumbersome to use. So he built a community around sharing and helping and trying to figure out this massive application that basically you could probably build another application inside of it, is how powerful it is. And that's kind of where we spawned. And as that grew, people, had other parts like PSAs or remote control tools or other parts of the business that they were now involved in as they grew professionally. And we just opened up the community to have everything involving MSPs.
Got it. So it started around one specific problem, evolved into solving problems around nascent areas of that. I think, again, we're, as a vendor, a part of, the MSPGeek community. I always struggle with, quite honestly, around engaging without selling, right? So I tend to just Probably. I probably don't get in there as much because I'm so overly like I was on the other side, and I don't want to be that guy. And had some poor experiences on like Reddit, where you get yelled at for saying something wrong in the wrong area. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So, any suggestions for the vendors out there?
Yeah,
me
it's
included.
So. I struggle with this as well, is to not push vendors away because we're constantly solicited and buy our stuff. Yeah. Here's 1,000 marketing emails, but it comes down to just engaging in what you know, and having conversations about not necessarily your product, but if someone has a challenge and you can help solve that, even if it's not something that you've done before, like this is how I would solve it. That goes a long way.
Right.
It's just interacting at that point. And that's how we try to educate vendors who come to our community, because they will tell you if you're doing something wrong, and they will let us know as well, which is fun. But so it's just start having conversations, even if it's in a random channel or somewhere else where you feel you can contribute. Just have conversations, and people will come and ask you what you do and what you solve, and they'll start building relationships without you having to do that.
Well, I think that is it, right? It's like it is the relationship part of it, and like you want that to be authentic. You want it to be authentic from the start, and I think like any relationship, it comes with sharing without expectation to start.
Yep.
And so like I feel like in other areas, like we've been successful in doing exactly what you're saying. You're like, hey, here's like a bunch of free statement of work templates, or like here's a spreadsheet I built, has nothing to do with our product, and we're actually trying to get out of spreadsheets, right? But for now, like solving your problem is like, here's one way to do it.
Yeah.
And one way we thought about it. So, I mean, I think that is just continuing to be relevant, continuing just to ideally be authentic and build a relationship without the expectation of like getting money in return, which hopefully that works out one day. But
it's from what the vendors that we see that interact that way generally see a really good return on their initial investment, I would say. MEBot, are you familiar with that company? They run their support out of our community.
Oh, really?
Which is a very weird thing to have to like a statistic I can say. But yeah, they run, when you sign up for because our MSP signed up for them, and I didn't even know this was happening until I got the welcome email. And it said,
like, wait.
Yeah. You can email us here, but if you want a quicker response, join MSPGeek and join these channels, and you can actually interact with us on a one-to-one basis. And I was just like, that's weird, even though it's my community. It's just but they love it.
I mean, that's like full transparency, right, around like all the other members you have there that are not a part of them, and that's really interesting. So, all right, so the local thing. We recently called out Hook Security, our friends at Hook Security on LinkedIn, to have a kickball match, and I'm pretty sure they're scared.
I mean, I as a neutral third party,
you were already bribed. You're not neutral.
I volunteered to referee. Look, I said if I was to be bribed, I can be equally bribed by all parties involved.
You did. That's fair. You did say that.
But I would love to see that, ref that if we need one. I don't know kickball.
Are there referees in kickball?
I don't know.
I'm not well versed with the kickball rules and regulations.
I'm sure there's like a league rule you can get, like a whole packet probably.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're just going to smoke Hook Security. No, but all joking aside, like that was, again, Brad Powell over there and myself, like he's here local. They're, some of their team is here local. And like, we've just been saying the same thing, like, you were here, and then like they're here, and like Ruffian and some other mail protector. I mean, I can go on and on about like who is here, and so like we're very interested in just building like the localized community, a version, right, of some of the other ones that are out there, but local.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see more and more of that coming out? Like the idea to go back to like in-person local events. I mean, y'all just had a big one. Like, is that evolving and coming back, you think?
Yeah. MSPGeek just had our own conference, for those who don't know. It's called MSPGeek Con, and it was wildly successful, more than we could have hoped for and we're expecting, to be honest. But one of our goals is to bring local events, because we're aware that not everyone can travel. Not everyone has the ability to go those long distances or has the ability to take that time off to go and be educated. So we want to bring and take our format and shrink it a little bit and bring local events where local sponsors can come in and we can have like a day of learning and training, and fun events, and so we can spread the MSP Geek's core mission statement is a rising tide raises all ships.
Right.
And as much as we can to elevate vendors, MSPs, technicians, individuals, that's achieving our goal.
Sure.
So having those local events, we want to take that and spread it around and have it in different areas.
I mean, I think about here in Greenville where we are is like we have, presence from distributors, and like within those distributors, like a presence from, a lot of big name OEMs, and like they're all right here, and some sort of representation here local, not to mention all like, remote work MSPs such as yourself. So like y'all aren't headquartered here necessarily, but like
we have 3 employees here in South Carolina.
So like there's not like a core, IntelliComp here, but like there are more. I mean, there are more just like
There's
that.
2 that I know off the top of my head.
Right.
And probably several more.
Yeah. So like this beatdown kickball thing is going to be, we should hashtag that beatdown. Is like our first attempt at like community, right? And like building that, and it's starting with something kind of cheesy and fun, but I think it'll be a good place to start, and hopefully it can grow into something else, and
maybe we can partner together and have our MSP event, and the fun after activity can be a kickball tournament.
Yes, a tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of bribes would be happening, I'm pretty sure. Who knows?
Neutral third party.
Who knows? At that point, you wouldn't be neutral. But all right. So like, maybe walk us through just. So you've been how long have you been helping with MSP Geek?
10 years.
10 years. Okay. So you've done it all perfectly.
Every step of the way. Yes.
It's been perfect. Nailed it. All right. So since you're perfect, can you give us some just like what would be some advice, right, of anyone trying to build a local community or just a community in general? Like, where do you start?
Create something that people want to be around. Provide something without expecting anything in return. Like that's how MSP Geek started, and it's been wildly successful. Is we had 5 or 6 people who were really smart and could use the application really well. They wrote scripts, they wrote sequels.
Do we need smart people to start?
Not necessarily.
Brad and I starting not the probably the best ones to start with.
But just if you have something that people can benefit from without asking anything in return, then that's and just do it consistently, and people will flock to you really easily, and then it'll start to sustain itself. I don't provide a lot of assistance anymore in the community from individual thing. I help where I can, but like I'm no longer a lead technician providing scripts and SQL queries and all kinds of technical stuff to individuals anymore. It's not my I've moved on and up from that. I still have the ability to, but I don't have the ability, or I don't have the
day-to-day interaction with it.
So just provide something, and then it'll grow on its own.
Have you seen like any sort of channels that have worked better than others? Because I know y'all started on, I don't know if you started on Slack, but all over Slack. IRC.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely, we can segment part of our community specifically for a Greenville event.
Okay.
We've done it for Australia, New Zealand, and Germany. We had a community in Germany who didn't feel like they could run one very well, so they wanted an area where we could set up for them to be a part of it. And it's just a channel full of Germans, like 250 Germans who have conversations. And it's very interesting to go in there and be like, I know that word. When we first got it all set up and people were thanking us, we kept going to Google Translate to read what they were saying and trying to communicate, because none of us spoke German. So it was like, no, you're all welcome here. We appreciate you guys coming and stuff like that. So it was fun to experience that for a little bit. But
that's cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I think as technologists, it sounds a little lofty, but technology people, I mean, that's our tendency is to like lean towards technology to build that community, and I think I'll typically like over engineer that kind of stuff in my head, but like what was just a great starting point is like just calling out someone on LinkedIn as a starting point, but seriously, like just to like be in person. And show that we're trying to do that.
But you'll have to have some method of communication. Like we have Slack and Discord as our primary, where people just live when they're not together. And there's several people who go to conferences together and hang out. We get photos all the time of them being together, and we get super jealous. But having somewhere where they can communicate after the events and start building that togetherness. even though you're not together, is super important.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, so if anyone wants to talk to you about MSPGeek, IntelliComp, stuff you're doing, like what's the best way for anyone to reach out to you and talk, if you want to talk?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Kyle Spooner.
Taylor's.
Yeah, Taylor's. There is another Kyle Spooner in the IT industry. He's in Jacksonville.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not in Jacksonville.
The other one.
Yeah. There's another one in Canada. That was funny. I got tagged in on LinkedIn once for him. That was fun.
I love a good Canadian.
But I'm also on MSP Geek Slack and Discord. You can join. It's free. MSPGeek.org. Just hop in, tag me. I'm there. So
awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on again as a bribe. This is not a bribe for you to come here, but you do have a water. I mean, we gave you a water. I feel like that's a pretty strong bribe.
It's more than I've gotten so far.
Right. Exactly. So we're winning. Now in a couple of weeks, we're going to, be doing a kickball tournament with our friends Hook Security here in Greenville. Kyle's going to referee or umpire or whatever kickball people do. But again, it's an effort to build out that community and start somewhere, and we'll see where it goes. It could be an epic failure, but you never know, right?
Those are always the better ones, though.
I know, right? We'll just have to take a bunch of pictures. But no, man, I appreciate you joining us. Again, it's always good to have someone in person, and so speaking about all that, appreciate you hopping in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, all right. So for those of you who have not subscribed to the InScope podcast, you should do that. Go to scopestack.io/podcast, and you can subscribe in all the places. Again, from a ScopeStack side, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go to scopestack.io/free. We have a free account talking about, honestly, giving stuff away, trying to, give value before you have to talk to any salesperson was the intent. And so appreciate that, and we'll see you out there.